Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Fundamentally Sound podcast. I'm Zach here with my brother Jared. And for the first episode, we're going to go through a couple different topics. First, we're going to start out with the winner and losers of the trade deadline. Then we're going to give our tiers of each, like the championship contenders and where each team sits. And then we're going to give our thoughts on the All-Star game, possible changes, as well as the predictions for the winners. And then we'll close it out with our midseason awards.
All right. So do you just want to get into it right away? I think.
Yeah, we can start with the
Okay.
winners and losers.
All right. Start with winners or losers first.
Let's start with losers first.
Okay. So we each picked three. Three
Mhm.
winners, three losers. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to?
I'll go first. I'll start 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for number 3, I had the Bulls. The Bulls for the past couple years have just been like every year. It's like they need to make a move at the trade deadline. They need to blow it up, or they need to actually try to contend, and they just haven't been able to do that. They didn't get a single first round pick for DeMar, Caruso, or Levine, and it was just kind of another mid trade deadline. It just they extended Lonzo. It was reported that they could have got a first round pick for him, but they held on to him, and it's just like you have young stars in like Kobe White and Matas Buzelis, but it's like they just can never find a way to get out of the middle of the pack. They're always like a play-in team, and they are just always stuck there, and the ownership never really does anything to fix it.
Yeah. I guess kind of it's jumping ahead a little bit for me, but I had the Bulls at number two on my biggest losers.
Okay.
Same reason that you said, like, dude, like no first round picks for all those guys is insane.
Right.
And like especially, I mean, they should be fully committed to a rebuild at this point.
Yeah.
Like they've just been like stuck in purgatory. Like
Mm-hmm.
absolutely like no chance of contending. They had like that half a season when everyone was healthy before all of Lonzo's
Yep.
injuries, and then everything hit the fan, and now since then they've just been like a perennial play-in team, like no direction it seems like for the future. And then the
Mm-hmm.
fact that like you let DeMar go in free agency, like
Yep.
you sell Levine and you don't get any first round picks back. It's just I don't know, ridiculous. So I had them at two because I think
Okay.
they're a dumpster fire right now. Um,
Yep.
for my number three spot, I put Mark Williams. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
because like
Yeah.
um, so he's supposed to get traded to the Lakers. That's an amazing scenario for him. Huge upgrade.
Yep.
He gets to go from Charlotte to playing with LeBron and Luca. And then like he can't pass his physical and it's just I don't know. He
And
has to
it's
find
yeah.
out he has to go back to Charlotte and it like and now
Right.
and now there's the whole weird thing too with like his team didn't want him like or like they were willing to trade him, but now he has to go back and play for that team.
Well, like
Like,
yeah. Like I'll have to look more into it, but I did see. I think the first 2 games when he was like came back, he didn't play. Like he was not physically ready to play. And then now I guess the Hornets were still trying to dispute it. So it's like it's just this. I've never seen that before, where it was like a trade is like essentially gone all the way through. And this was a big trade too. This was like the Lakers were set to have a really good starting lineup and core going into the postseason, and now it's like they kind of like no disrespect to Alex Len, but you had to settle for Alex Len, for your center, and when you go up a guy against guys like Jokic and the length that OKC has, it can get difficult, and Mark Williams really would have helped them.
right. I mean, like, yeah, the fact that the Mark Williams trade like fell through is the whole reason that like I put the Lakers where I put them in my tier list. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would have put them higher up. Like Mark
Yeah.
Williams, in my opinion, is like that missing piece that they needed to be
Yep.
like contenders.
Yep.
But
Okay. So
yeah,
my number 2 was the Suns, because obviously you have all the Bradley Beal stuff. There was rumors that he wanted to go to Milwaukee, and then that was shut down. and then he wouldn't move his trade clause for anybody else. And he was like, I want to stay in Phoenix, but Phoenix wanted to move him, but they couldn't. And then they have that horrible contract. And then on top of that, you have the whole KD stuff that like they were trying to trade him, and he was essentially going to be a Warrior again if he didn't shut it down. It sounds like, and it was just like the locker room was a mess. You're like, I don't know if they're 500. I have to look. I think they're under 500, and they, the playoffs are a big question mark for them. So it sounds like KD's probably going to get moved again this summer, but they're just, for all the money and everything that they've put into their team, they just should be significantly better and in a better spot than where they are. So they're my
Well,
number two.
yeah, I mean, I think honestly, what like the last couple of years of Suns basketball has shown is truly how much of like a team game the NBA is,
Yep.
because like they made it to the finals. They won 2 games in the finals against the Bucks. And
Yep.
you look at that team and they had way less star power. It
Uh
was
huh.
Devin Booker was their star, Chris Paul is in the supporting role. But then now you look at the Suns team and they're
Yep.
missing the shooting from Cam Johnson. They're missing the defense from Mikal Bridges. Like so many of those important pieces that were crucial to them being like championship contenders, they traded away to get
Yeah.
KD. And obviously, I mean, hindsight's 2020, and you probably always make that trade to get KD. But
Right.
I don't know. I think you give up a lot hoping that like an aging Kevin Durant paired with Devin Booker can compete. And what we've seen is that they just really haven't been able to put a team around them.
Yep.
All right.
And I feel like we have the same number one loser, but
Yeah. So my
yeah.
my biggest loser of the trade deadline was Nico Harrison.
Okay.
I said Nico specifically and not the Mavs because, like,
Yeah.
in in reality, with the Luka trade, like you got Anthony Davis, you got Cam Christie, like the team is still set up to win now, and I
Yeah.
think they will. I still personally, I think the roster as constructed is good enough to make a run to the finals if they are able to
Yeah.
put the pieces together.
And stay healthy. That's a big
Yeah,
thing
and
because
stay healthy.
AD is like, yeah.
However,
Um.
however,
Yeah.
trading away Luca
Yeah.
for an aging Anthony Davis is,
And then
I
like the
think,
lack of draft capital too.
yeah,
It's like,
I think it's going to go down as one of the most mind-boggling trades just in sports history. You have a
yeah.
guy who's averaging a near triple double, who hasn't even entered his prime yet, just bought a house in Dallas,
Yeah.
like was so committed to the franchise, thought he was going to spend his entire career there. That's so rare in the NBA. The fact
Yeah.
that you were able to hit back-to-back home runs, drafting Dirk, having him stay for 20 years, then drafting
Uh
Luca,
huh.
and him having the mentality and the thought that he gets to stay for that he's going to play for 20 years for that franchise, and you're going to have
Yeah.
20 years to build a championship team around him. And then you trade that away and effectively cut your championship window to like maybe the next 3 years,
Yeah. Instead of like the next what,
the next
15.
decade plus. Yeah. It's insane. Like,
Like, and yeah, and then there's all this like stuff about like his conditioning, as if he didn't run through the West on one leg. Like he was so injured that whole postseason. Like he was not healthy, and he still made like it'd be one thing if you're like if it's an Embiid situation, I can understand it, but. He's 25 and he just went to the finals and they lost to like a really good Boston team. Like I think start of the year was like Boston probably was, they were the favorite for
I mean,
most of the year.
and not to
And
mention the gauntlet that they ran through in the West.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Like like the Minnesota, yeah, Minnesota was really good. Like the Nuggets, like the Nuggets were coming off a championship. Like they were still, it's yeah, all the teams that they ran through, and now obviously the West this year is tougher, but still, it's like he wasn't healthy and he was so committed. That's the thing. It's like it's not like he showed any signs of not committing, and he doesn't have drama. And if you want to sit there and say whatever about like condition or whatever, I don't care about his condition. If he can average a 30-point triple double, he can do what he wants
well,
essentially. If it doesn't impact his performance on the court, you can find somebody else to play defense. It's not that hard. Like
and
you can find
yeah,
pieces.
because guess what? Like, he's not the only European-born player in the NBA who's
Yeah.
had questions about his athleticism, but is averaging a 30-point triple double. Look at Nikola
Yeah.
Jokic, and he's won 3 MVPs, and
Yeah.
and he like they just won a championship 2 years ago, and they were able to put a team around him. Like despite his conditioning questions and despite his
Yeah.
lack of defense, they're able to put a team around him because he's just that much better on offense. He's like that,
Yeah.
just a generational superstar. And that's what you had in Luca. And you traded it away for Anthony Davis. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and then like the big thing that obviously there's a lot that bothers me, but like the lack of draft capital and the fact that Palinka talked Nico out of giving him a first
yeah, the
is
fact that
crazy to
he
me.
he just made this deal with Rob Palinka and didn't ask anyone else. I mean, I guess there was that report that
There was the
he
report
he
but
called the Bucks and I think one other team.
it
Um,
was the Timberwolves, but again, the Bucks weren't going to give up Giannis, and the
yeah,
Timberwolves aren't going to
gave
give
up.
up Ant. It's
Yeah,
just because they know what they have.
right, exactly. It's like there are maybe 5 players in the league who are untradeable,
Yeah,
and Nico Harrison traded one of them away. I just
yeah,
it doesn't make any
yeah.
sense. And
Yeah, because
I
I think like when I think I got the notification around 11:30 that night, and it was like one of those things. It's like you kind of like swipe and scroll it away, and you're like, that's fake, or like it
Shams got
doesn't.
hacked.
Shams got hacked, and
Yeah,
Shams thought he got hacked because, and I don't know, I just don't. Yeah, of all the years that I've consistently like followed basketball, that's probably gonna go down as the craziest one because I don't see you know this is like a Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant like veto. This is when you veto that you're like, but Silver didn't step in. He could have stepped in, but he
he
didn't.
he can't. He can't.
But
He said on I think he was on
oh, he can't step in anymore.
that
Like
it's
like
never
Stearns could.
no. So Stern said or Silver clarified because they asked him about it when he was on. I think he was on Part of My Take. Um,
Okay.
they asked him about it and like about vetoing, and he's so Stearns was able to veto the trade, the Chris Paul trade,
Mm-hmm.
because at the time, the New Orleans Hornets were an expansion team, and they didn't have an owner yet. So
Okay.
Stearns was the acting like owner and GM.
I gotcha. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
so he was able to veto trades. Because yeah, I thought that too. I'm like, why would they not get vetoed? But Adam Silver
Yeah.
cleared that up, like,
Yeah.
which is I think what is funny too because the fact that like he has to make that clear that he
Mm-hmm.
can't veto trades just shows how
Yeah.
ridiculous this trade is. The fact
Yeah.
that he had to clarify, like, look,
Mm-hmm.
I agree, it's a crazy trade, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So like my number one is essentially I had everyone affiliated with the Dallas Mavericks,
Yeah,
like the fans, like Nico Harrison, ownership. The players were like the fans were, and I'm glad that they're able to get refunds for their season tickets.
yeah.
But it just,
I feel for him, man. I can't even
I,
imagine.
I, I, I don't know if I could be a fan after that. It's just
Yeah,
like everybody within the organization is just like they were stunned for a couple of days after because it's like you don't, like Luca, you could tell Luca didn't love it. Like I was like, yeah, he gets to play with LeBron, so that helps, but he was fully prepared to be in Dallas for the next 20 years.
yeah,
Like it, yeah, so everyone, like fans, unfortunately, players, coaches, I'm sure. I mean, you had one coach already leave because Luca left, so he left. Jason Kidd doesn't seem too thrilled. Kyrie's not happy. It's like, yeah, I think everyone in the organization
Yeah.
just
And
took a big loss,
and what a
yeah,
crappy situation to send Anthony Davis to now. Like
yeah,
in in place of Luca, you get Anthony Davis, but now AD has to go there and
yep,
try to fill the shoes of Luca. Something he's
mm-hmm,
not going to be able to do.
mm-hmm.
It's yeah, it's it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right,
Um,
you want to move
all right,
on to your winners?
yeah. So my number three winner was Jimmy Butler. Obviously we know the Jimmy Butler saga. How many times he clarified that he wanted out of Miami, and again, I don't blame him. I mean, people are like, oh, he's, you know, what gives him the right, like, as if he didn't go to the finals 2 years in a row. He gave that franchise everything he had. Like, you saw how he was in the bubble. Like, he gave so much to that franchise, and they just refused to put other like stars around him. And I get like they missed out on Lillard, and they missed out on certain other free agents when they were available. But it's like you have what Bam and Tyler Hero around him. Like that's not good enough. It's like you went to the finals 2 years in a row, and you were like a piece or two away, and you didn't. But then he forced his way out, and there were some contenders that he possibly went to, and I wouldn't have put him on this list if he didn't get that extension, because when he got traded and then he got that extension, I was like, that is a lot of money for an aging player. Like I get Jimmy's good, but he's not that. He's not $120 million good anymore. He's just not. You know.
Yeah, I honestly like. I guess I get it from the Warriors' perspective. Like the
Yeah,
team as
because Steph
constructed,
is like
yeah, the team as constructed wasn't going to like compete for a
right.
championship. So I guess I get making the move to go try to get a second superstar like that. But
Yeah.
also, I mean, I would have, when they let Clay walk, I would have sold on Draymond. Like
Mm-hmm.
try to rebuild that
Yeah.
team as best you can with like younger like pieces or draft picks. Obviously,
Yeah.
like they had that year where they were really bad because everyone was hurt. Steph was hurt, Clay was hurt, Draymond I think was hurt for
Mm-hmm.
part of the season, and they end up getting two picks in the top 10, and then they miss on both of them.
Yeah.
Wiseman and um, Kaminga. Like, so I guess
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know. It's a tough situation, and I guess I get
And then the one promise you have is Jordan Poole, and then Draymond ruined that. So
right.
it's like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, personally, like I would have traded Dre after the whole pool incident, but
uh huh,
I'm not a GM, so that's not my call.
right,
Um, yeah, and I mean, like, good, dude, good for Jimmy for getting that bag. Like
right. I
I,
don't know how we pull it off, but
yeah,
props to you, man.
yeah, and also like personally, I think the Heat are a better team now after trading Jimmy. The package that they
Yeah,
got
but
for Jimmy, I think makes them
yeah,
a much better team. Like
yeah. I mean, they haven't won since they made the trade, but still,
I mean that could also just be a chemistry thing.
yeah,
But
yeah, but
I think that's a team that, like next year even could not I'm not saying compete for a championship, but like could get a home playoff
yeah,
series.
because Hero's having his breakout year,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, he's an all-star this year. Bam has been an all-star in the past. You have Khalil Ware, who
hmm
they hit on. Um,
yeah,
and like you're gonna have, I think Terry Rozier comes off the books soon, which once that contract's gone, that's a lot of money
hmm
freed up. You have Andrew Wiggins now. Um,
yeah,
like they have a and they got a first round pick.
hmm
Um,
hmm
like I think Pat Riley did a great job, honestly. Like somehow getting a
Yeah,
team to
they got a solid haul
yeah
for
to give
a
up that much
guy
for a
that
guy that
yeah.
didn't want to be there and was gonna leave in free agency.
Right, right.
Yeah. All right. My number three, I had Kyle Kuzma. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
because like what what a win like a winning scenario for him. You know,
Yeah.
he gets drafted to the Lakers. He gets to be a part of a championship team in LA, and then gets shipped off to just NBA no man's land to Washington. And he's
Mhm.
forced to be the number one option, forced to play for a team that doesn't want to win, that can't play winning basketball because they don't have any like decent young pieces. So he's forced to be the
Yeah.
vet, number one option, forced to do so much more than I think he's comfortable with as a player.
Mhm.
And now finally, the Bucks make the trade. They get Kyle Kuzma, and it seems like it's going to be such a better fit for him. He gets to go
Yep.
play winning basketball again. He doesn't need to be a number one option. He can be a number three or a number four option, with which I think is what we've seen in the past when he plays his best basketball.
Yep.
And he gets to help a team compete for a championship,
Mhm.
and he gets to play with Giannis and Dame.
Yeah,
Like
so yeah, it's definitely like you could already tell the first couple games his energy. He's like, obviously it's gonna take a little bit to find his groove. And Giannis, he hasn't played with Giannis yet, so that'll we'll see what kind of things they can unlock there. And I think defensively, he even said the other day that he thinks they can be one of the better defensive teams in the league. And when you think about it, some of the lineups that they could run, if they decide to put Giannis at the five, um, things can get interesting. With their athleticism and the pace that they can run with now. Chris was getting older; he had a couple injuries. He couldn't move the way he used to.
well, and all the
Is
shooting that they have now too.
yeah.
Because I mean,
Like you got Gary on
this
a minimum. Like Torian and AJ are still the some of the top 3-point shooters in the league, and
and
Dame
Dame,
is Dame every year.
yeah, like the way this team's been constructed around Giannis is to put shooters around him, and then with the thought that it's going to open up the middle of the floor for driving lanes, which obviously
Yeah.
it has. But now you bring in another guy like Kyle Kuzma, who
Hmm.
plays the same way that Giannis does, downhill, drive to the lane. Like that's when he's playing
Yeah.
his most aggressive and best basketball. And
Hmm.
if like that driving lane isn't available, he can kick it out to the plethora of shooters that the Bucks have. Like I
Hmm.
I think the Bucks as they're constructed now are a much better team than they were before the trade deadline.
Yeah, and then obviously you have Jericho Sims too. We haven't seen him yet, but Doc said he'll fit in somewhere. So I think it's just a matter of getting healthy to the playoffs, and then you just kind of expect Dame to hit another gear, Giannis to hit another gear, and they can beat. I think they can beat anybody in any given night. I mean, you saw. I get the cup game was one game, but that was an OKC team that we've seen all year has been really good, and they held them under 90 points. Like
Yeah,
they can be really good, and
yeah,
you see the confirmation already from Doc and guys in the locker room have bought in, which is always a positive.
yeah. I think they can be a dark horse contender team this year, and if they don't do it this year, I think if they're able to retool, bring back some guys that were key this year, I think they can be contenders next
Yep.
year. You know,
All
all
right,
right.
my number two was De'Aaron Fox. It was pretty quick from saying, all right, we're gonna listen to offers for Fox, and Fox was like, Fox had the teams that he wanted to go to, and one of those teams was San Antonio. The Spurs did not give up Castle, which was a big plus. Fox now gets to spend the essentially prime of his career playing with Wemby. Wemby has his point guard. Fox has his pick and roll guy. It's a win-win for everybody in the organization. They're not rushing Wemby. They're starting to find and build pieces around him. And Fox, like, obviously he was really good in Sacramento, but he just wasn't going to sign an extension. And San Antonio was the best place for him, I think, and that's where he ended up. So, big winner in my book.
Yeah, I had Fox and the Spurs as my number two also.
Yep.
I mean, I just think that I mean, I think it was, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it was such a win for the Spurs to get their point guard of the future, the guy that can play the pick and roll with Wemby and not give up
Yeah.
Stephon Castle.
Yeah.
Like, the fact, or Devin Vassell.
Hmm.
Like, they have a young core now that is so promising. Wemby, Stephon
Yeah.
Castle. I mean, Jeremy Sohan has shown flashes of time. Devin Vassell, like,
Yeah.
and they're going to continue to grow, continue to develop. I think that's a team that now has a long-term leader in place in Fox. That's going to help Wemby grow,
Yeah.
and like, it's going to be a team that's going to be able to compete for a championship in a couple years.
Yeah. I mean, they're sitting 23 and 29 right now, 12 seed, but they're only I would say only like five like they could be a borderline playing team if they hit a groove, depending on how the West shakes out. Like I think a play in would be a really good experience, regardless of how they do. It would be a really good experience for those two, especially Wemby, his first essentially playoff type atmosphere to get his feet wet. Even at 20 years old, we know what he's most likely going to turn out to be, and they're not rushing him as far as his progression. Like his body, like the muscle will get there. We saw like with Giannis how he blew up kind of in one off season or so, one or two off seasons, just kind of put on all that muscle and then turned into the player he was. So I think they should. If I think they should be trying their best to get to the play, and I think they have a good shot. And if so, I think it's only gonna help them.
Yeah,
Regardless of how they do.
right. And even if they don't, they're going to end up
Yeah,
with
it's
another high draft pick. And I
yeah,
mean, the Spurs organization has shown that they've been able to hit on those picks the last couple of years.
yeah,
So, and I think they own rights to like a Hornets pick coming up and like a Hawks pick coming up. So
hmm
they're going to have a lot of high draft picks um, to draft, like young, promising players to put around the guys they already have. So I think,
hmm
yeah, absolutely huge winners, the Spurs. Who did you have as your number one?
I had the Lakers because obviously, like, there are some questions with like their center and their front court and things like that. But even if you don't win a championship or get far, you have now what, say 2 years. That's probably the most you're gonna get out of LeBron. I don't know at this point. No signs of slowing down. So, and now he's got Luca, so who knows, that could rejuvenate him. But regardless of that, you now have Luca, and again, I don't know if he's going to be committed to the Lakers, but if he does, if he likes it, and if he's loyal to Dallas, I'm sure he can be loyal to LA, unless somewhere else he gets intrigued. But the Lakers have essentially reset their championship window. You have a guy that is essentially that is untradeable, untouchable, that you somehow got for
Stole.
chump change, essentially. Um, that is 25, about to enter his prime, and in the biggest market in the NBA, and that players will be more than happy to come play with him on a minimum to try to win a championship. It it could have been a little bit better if a trade deadline, but aside from, I think without if the Mark Williams thing went through, they would have had a flawless trade deadline, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Mark Williams trade was the reason that I didn't put the Lakers specifically as my top team, but I put Rob
Hmm.
Pelinka. Because
Okay.
obviously, like, he didn't have the foresight to know that Mark Williams wasn't going to pass his physical. But
Yeah.
the fact that Rob Pelinka was able to pull off the Luka trade
Hmm.
and could have, if the physicals work out, was able to get Mark Williams. Obviously, physicals didn't. pan out. He's going back to Charlotte. But
Hmm.
think about all of the crap that Rob Pelinka has endured
Yep.
from Lakers fans. Obviously, a
Hmm.
very, very, very tough team to be in charge of. The fans are
Yeah.
ruthless. The
Yeah.
fact that after all of these years of just taking so much negativity about the team, hit after hit after
Hmm.
hit about of negativity of how he isn't doing something right, or they're not going and getting the superstars that they need to, or Lakers fans being upset because a superstar didn't want to come play for less money in LA.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to pull this off, and now that he has Luka, like with this trade going through, Luka's not eligible for a supermax anymore. So,
Yeah. He loses out on a lot of money,
so
which sucks for him.
right, but it's great for Rob Pelinka
Yeah.
because now he's getting Luka on a discount, and all he had to
Right.
do,
Assuming he
assuming he signs the
stays.
extension,
I think he will. I think he
yeah,
will, but
and all he
you never
had to
know.
give up was a young role player in Cam Christie, he's a good player, an aging star in Anthony Davis, and a first round pick, and that's it.
Yep.
It's just I
Yeah.
I can't believe it. If
Yeah.
I'm Rob Pelinka, I I'm holding my
Well,
middle.
he thought he was joking first. He
Yeah,
legitimately thought Nico was
yeah.
like,
Like if I'm Rob Pelinka, I'm holding up my middle finger to the entire Lakers fan base, saying, "Look,
yeah.
I'm actually
And
a good GM. I know what I'm doing. So shut up."
there's
You know?
nothing that there's nothing that they can say now. Like Lakers fans,
Yeah,
you can't criticize the man. You just can't.
yeah. At
And
the end of the
and
day,
yeah, so we all know how Laker fans are, but you got Luca, and it's because of Rob Pelinka.
yeah.
So,
At the end
and
of
I
the
get Nico
day,
Harrison was a big part of that, but still,
yeah. Regardless of what Rob Pelinka does the rest of his career as a GM, he pulled this
yeah,
trade off. And
yep.
if Luka signs that extension and stays here
Hmm.
long term in LA, there's nothing that any Lakers fan can say about Rob Pelinka because of this trade alone. So that's why I had him as my biggest winner. So moving on, we are going to hop into our All Star Weekend picks, and we're just going to talk about the All Star Weekend in general. Um, Starting off with the skills competition. I don't think I've ever asked you like, what are your thoughts on the skills competition?
I mean, it's just there. It's I don't love it, don't hate it. It's
Right.
just kind of like I think it would be. I do like what they do that they have like teams and it's not just like random. Like I think it would have been cool if Braun and Bronny would have accepted, but now it's kind of like there are four teams. There's Team Cavs with Donovan and Mobley, Team Brooks with Risa Shea and Alex Sarr, Team Spurs with CP3 and Wemby, and then Team Warriors with Draymond and Moody. So it's kind of like not the biggest names, but I like that they have like teams. But I just wish it would be kind of like a little bit more fun, kind of thing. Like they had the Antetokounmpo brothers that one year, so just have like I don't know better teams instead of just like Team Brooks and team like just teams, but it's just two players from a certain team. I wish they would have different like teams that are just kind of like not just two players from a certain team.
I mean, I feel like that's something that we've seen in the last couple of years in general is just like with the dunk contest and with the skills challenge is that like they just can't get big names to compete, to
Yeah.
agree to do it. Um, I mean, I don't really know how you fix that unless you like maybe incentivize them to
Mm-hmm.
like compete or whatever. Um, I don't know. I mean, personally, like the skills competition, like it's cool, I guess, but I don't know, like I know that they used to do like a horse challenge, like a game of horse.
Yeah. Yep.
Something like that would be super cool. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
like having, 3 or 5 players, however many, like play a game of horse.
Yep.
That would be cool. I mean, they've tried, switching up the format. Like, I don't know. I think you're right. It just kind of feels like it's just like there, you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of like an event that you don't you just watch it, but it's like
Yeah.
yeah, you don't love it, you don't hate it. It's just kind of you're okay with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like if it went away, I wouldn't be
Right.
mad.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's
Um,
something they can replace it with anything, truly, because
right,
it's not like I think no one's tuning in to like All Star Saturday Night to watch the skills
right,
challenge.
right,
Everyone's tuning in for the 3 point and the dunk contest. So, why not like
right,
try to do something that's maybe going to draw some more eyes?
right.
Do a freaking talent show, like I think they did
Have
they
yeah,
did something like that one year. I remember like Victor
have
Oladipo came out
Scotty
and
do
sang.
karaoke or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
bro. Like
Oladipo came out and sang like I don't know, they did
yeah,
like yeah, just do
just
something because
have more fun with it. I
I think
think.
that would be yeah, let us see the players' personalities because especially
Like there was that one year I saw this morning where like Kevin Hart and Draymond had the 3-point contest. Like that's
yeah,
entertaining.
yeah, yeah, like they could be so creative with it. And
Yeah.
I think especially I mean, to grow, they talk so much about growing the game, and everyone talks
Yeah.
about like the NBA's numbers, how they're dropping and whatnot. I mean, I think a big part of that is you just don't feel like, well, one, the product isn't super fun to watch right now,
Yeah,
but
it's
also I
right.
think what would
It's
help is like having like letting us see players' personalities more. You know,
yeah.
like as a Bucks fan, I think we get spoiled with Giannis. You get to see
Yeah.
his personality because he's such a like fun loving guy. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that there's plenty of guys like that around the league. But if you're not a fan of that team, you probably don't know it. You know?
Yeah, I think yeah, like you see guys obviously everybody loves Scotty. Like Scotty's has been and I think it helps a lot too when the guys are good, they're really good players. Like obviously like Boban, like everybody loves Boban, but
Hmm.
Boban like Boban's just a bench player. Like he
Yeah,
just sits at the end of a bench.
yeah,
But yeah, I think if they just had more fun with it, I think it would do a lot for their ratings because if you start out with yes, like you said, some kind of talent show or some kind of like fun non-basketball kind of event,
right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, but anyways, so I mean, with the current format, um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but so since they've switched to this team format, the hosting team has won all 3 years.
Okay.
So I think it was in Indy last year, right? Team
Yeah.
Indy won.
Yep.
I forgot what the other two were, but the team that hosted All Star Weekend, has won all 3 years. So when you're looking at picking your winner, you would think that means that
Yeah.
Team Warriors is going to win.
Yeah. But
However,
uh,
they sent
yeah.
Draymond and Moses Moody.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I just
no disrespect to our fellow podcaster Draymond Green,
right.
and no disrespect to Moses Moody,
Yeah. Trey's a great guy. Sure.
but like that's like Steph couldn't do it.
Right.
Pods couldn't do it. Like,
Steph and Jimmy would have been fun. I know Jimmy was not there until recently, but like just swap them out.
I don't
Like
know. I did not pick Team Warriors to win.
I didn't
I
either.
picked Team I
I
picked I picked Team Cavs.
yeah, I did too
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
I don't know. I could see Wemby and
I
CP3 doing
could,
something,
I
but I don't know.
could. Yeah, but
But I just the way yeah,
I
I
think
think
so
Donovan
often
and Mobley are just better. Like their chemistry, you know what I
I
mean?
think so often it comes down to like that half court shot, right? It's like who can make the half court
Yeah.
shot.
Yep.
And that's kind of like how I based it. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I felt like Team Cavs as constructed could probably make a
Yeah.
half court shot a little easier. I think Team Spurs is a good pick too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I went with Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley.
Yep. Same here.
All right.
3-point
Yeah, the
contest.
3-point contest. Arguably
The one I
the
feel.
most
Yeah.
entertaining event of the night. Um,
So the eight participants are Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, Cam Johnson, Norman Powell, and two-time defending champion Damian Lillard.
dude, I
So.
need to rant for a minute because as a Bucks fan, it is so frustrating. Obviously, it's great that we have Dame in it,
Yeah.
two-time defending champion. AJ Green, for
Yeah.
those who don't know, this man
Yeah, maybe.
out of northern Iowa shoots the lights out. He is
Yeah.
so good at one
Oh, wrong
thing,
AJ Green.
and that is shooting the basketball from three. This scrappy white dude from Iowa puts the ball in the hoop when it touches his hands. They put him on the court strictly to shoot threes. He is the Jack Golke of the NBA, and he is insane. He is such a good 3-point shooter. He's having his breakout year, his best year of his
Mm.
career, and he is not in the 3-point contest. I'm telling you, if this man got a chance to go out there and shoot, and he got in a rhythm, he could light it up like no one's business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
It's
is a
yeah.
shame, a damn shame, that he will not be participating in this 3-point contest. That's
Yeah. And
that's all I
yeah,
have to say.
it's just. Yeah, it's just that obviously it gets to a point where the bigger names, and it's not just the the actual better shooters. Like right now, I'm looking at AJ's stats. Yeah, this year he's averaging just under 8 points per game, and he's shooting 43% from three on 5 3-point attempts per game. Like it's
But
we
here's the
kind of
thing,
saw it a
though.
little bit last year, but now this year I swear it's just a whole different
Like,
AJ Green. Looks so much more comfortable, and he's a solid defender too for a smaller guard. Like he can play defense. Like he's a 3-and-D guy, and yeah, he gets a decent amount of minutes off the bench.
my whole thing is like, obviously you want the bigger names. I get it,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, if a guy can go out there and put the ball in the hoop, that's what's like the most entertaining.
yeah,
Joe Harris won a
yeah.
3-point contest. He got hot one night,
Mm-hmm.
went out there and put the ball in the hoop, and it's the most entertaining
Yeah,
thing. When there was that one where Steph and Clay had that insane
yeah,
um,
and
back
now
and
it's
forth,
back and forth. But
and
that was
and like that's
it's
super
almost like
fun
I
to
feel like
see.
if Steph did it like every year, it'd be hard to beat him. Like because
Right.
that's just it's different when he doesn't have to run around to get open, and he can just stand there and shoot off a rack. It's essentially it's automatic at that point. But like AJ's the same way. If he catches the ball like off a screen from Brooke or Giannis, whoever, like he can knock down tough shot. We've seen him knock down tough shots. But yeah, I get what you mean. I just wish they were had the better shooters instead of just bigger names.
Right. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like there's probably guys all over the league who are shooting super well this
Yeah.
year and are deserving of it.
Mm.
But get don't get the invite because they're not a huge like household name. And I'd rather see the guys who are hot this year put the ball in the hoop and score a ton of points
Yeah.
than see the bigger names go out there and maybe flop. Um, but anyways, so
That being said,
my winner for the
yeah.
3-point contest, it's in Oakland. Dame is
Yep.
from Oakland. Dame, very family
Mm-hmm.
oriented guy. Gonna have a lot of family there, I think, for All Star Weekend. He gets to be home, gets to see his kids, gets to see his family. He's gonna be in a good mood. He's the two-time defending
Yeah.
champion. He's Damian frickin' Lillard, Dame time. I just don't see a world I think he's gonna go out there and light it up. He's gonna put on a show.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's gonna three-peat. I mean, he's been great this year. What's he shooting? Like 38%.
Um, these numbers from three, yeah, just over 38% on nine
Yeah,
attempts a game. So,
yeah. And I
um,
mean,
but yeah, I just like looking at the rest of the field. I'm like Buddy Hield's pretty
good
good.
shooter.
Norman
Yeah,
Powell's having a breakout year, 24 points per game. Like, but other
yeah.
than that, I'm not moved by Brunson. Definitely not moved by Cade. But again, guys can get hot. But I just think Dame, if we've found out anything these past 2 years, he's been in Milwaukee, is that he's like Giannis. He's a family oriented guy. He thrives when he can be with his kids, be with the people he loves, and being around those kind of people throughout the week is just gonna boost his morale, boost his confidence, and I think he'll put on a show on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. All right. Moving on to the dunk contest. So,
So yeah, obviously we have Mac. Because, the dad that they throw it. All right, they call it from the G League every year and go dunk the ball. That's what he does. And then you have Stefan Castle, Montas Puzelos, and Andre Jackson Jr., another up and comer for the Bucks, who has found his way into the starting role and is the epitome of athleticism. If you don't really know who he is, I think he'll turn a lot of heads. I think he will.
I mean, maybe. I I think it's cool that he's in it. Um,
Yeah,
obviously I'm sure Bulls fans think it's cool that Matas is in the dunk
yeah,
contest. But I don't know. I think it all comes back to like we want to see big names, you know?
mm-hmm.
Like LeBron has never done a dunk contest, I don't think. Like
No, he hasn't.
there's so many great young dunkers.
Yeah,
We could get Ant in a dunk contest. We could get John a dunk contest. Um,
yeah,
it's like there's so many guys, so many bigger names. This is the
mm-hmm.
situation where you want to see the big names, you know,
Right.
like not the 3 point contest, so much, but I think this is the one where you want big names pulling off big dunks, like Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon obviously had their back and forth a couple, I mean, not even a couple years ago. That's a long time ago now.
That's pushing 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah. I mean, geez, makes me feel really old. Um, but it seems like that was really when the dunk contest peaked.
Yeah.
In this last, maybe decade or so, it's just I feel like the dunk contest has struggled, and thankfully, Mac I feel like has brought that back a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I love Mac. Like I've been following Mac
Yeah.
since he was in high school, and I keep wishing that he'll get his shot in the NBA. Um, hopefully he will. But I mean,
Yeah.
personally for me, I think it's cool. I get to see him at All Star Weekend because I think he's
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
talented.
He's my
Obviously,
pick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If I mean, I picked him to three-peat. Um,
Yeah. I just yeah.
yeah.
He's fun to watch, and I just like the other guys are fun, entertaining, but I just think Max. That's what Mac does, and
Right.
has essentially brought some fun back into the dunk contest. But I just we'll dive a little bit more into that in the changes, but it's just not what it used to be
Right.
at all.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure it'll still be good. I'm sure Mac will do something
Mm-hmm.
crazy, like he has done in the past. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And then moving on to Sunday night, the All Star game or All Star tournament. I don't know what they're calling it.
I,
Um,
again, I don't know.
with this new format, um, we're getting the NBA All Star split up into three teams, and then we're getting the winning team of the Rising Stars tournament, competing on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
night, and we're getting like a little four-team tournament style thing. I don't know. Do you like it?
No.
Yeah.
and I think everybody's confused, and that's not good. Like, I get wanting to make changes, but don't try to fix what's working. Like, there's no need for four teams. Like, East versus West. Like, I get like the captains. Like, that was an okay thing, but why do we need three teams? Like, I don't know. I don't like it. I think a lot of people, like newer, I would say newer fans, but like if you don't really follow it consistently, you just don't really understand it, and it's you're like, all right, what happened to like one team versus one team? I'm not a fan of it. Because the rosters were like they were drafted, but they weren't drafted. I believe they were picked, but just kind of look at rosters, you can kind of see they were kind of picked. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I don't know about you.
Um, you know, I mean, I personally loved the drafting format with the captains.
Yeah.
Um, but I also get that like those games aren't competitive. I
Mm-hmm.
think there was maybe 1 year in there where the games were competitive. Um, so I
Mm-hmm.
get wanting to switch it up. Personally,
Yeah.
like I wrote this down. If we're gonna go this way of like not having East versus West or not having team Giannis versus team LeBron like it
Yeah.
had been. Um I would want to see a tournament of like 3-on-3. So what I wrote down is you have your 12 All-Stars from the East, 12 from the
Mm-hmm.
West. Um the top two vote getters for each category, so front court and back court. Those guys are like each get a team, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So top two guards, and then top two forward for the forward slash center position. Um, each of those becomes a team captain. Then they get to draft their teams. They're picking two guys to be their
Yeah.
teammates, and then you start with you structure it east. The four teams in the east. They do like a little tournament, and then the four teams in the west do a little tournament, and then you get the winner of each, and they face each other. I think like if they're gonna go this format of having the tournament, I think doing it 3-on-3 would be like the best way to do it. It feels like pickup basketball. It's more loose. Um, do it in a half court style, where you bring the ball back past the 3 point line. Um, play the game, maybe to play the game to 11 by ones and twos or however you want to do it. Um, just make it more like fun, like pickup style. Like so many
Mm-hmm.
of like the fans are used to playing basketball. Backyard
Right. Right.
backyard pickup by ones and twos. Um, I also wrote down. Obviously, they've tried to incentivize money for charity, and like that's cool, but I don't know if it's like a big enough incentive. Um, so another idea that I had was maybe the winners um, win prizes for not just themselves, but for like their whole team, as in like their regular season team. Like, so if a team that like Giannis was on one, everyone on the Bucks wins a prize because
Okay.
Giannis's team the won the tournament. So then like maybe if there's something more to play for, you can win something cool for your teammates. Maybe it's money. Similar to how like the in-season tournament is, where like everyone on the team wins something.
Yeah.
Um, just to like I don't know, help incentivize the guys to actually like try a little more.
Yeah, because that's been like the thing the past couple years is that it's just nobody plays defense. Nobody really cares. It's just kind of like you know.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So
Like that was my idea. I thought
yeah.
yeah, if they're gonna go this format of not doing a full NBA style game, then switch it up completely. Make it a 3-on-3 tournament. That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. I think they just need to go back to the East versus West. They need to bring back the red and blue jerseys. There was nothing wrong with that at all. Don't. I honestly, even if you don't have to go back to the red and blue, I wouldn't even hate like going back to like your team jersey. Like everybody wears their own jersey, and then you have like all the white jerseys versus like the team color jerseys. Like it's bringing that back. I think would be huge. I don't like the way that they're going with like all the changes, and they're just trying to like, okay, we got to do something every year. I'm like, some things work, and then you change it, and then they really don't work. So, I don't love like I said, I don't love the three teams. I think it's kind of confusing, and yeah, they need to go back to two teams at the bare minimum, and I think they just need to go back to East and West. But I think they're past that. I do, but again, we'll see what Silver has in mind in the future.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't get so crazy that like they don't even have a game. Like how the
Yeah,
NFL does for Pro Bowl
I don't
weekend,
think they'll ever get there.
right? I mean, it's different because it's not a contact sport, but uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know something. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is something that they can talk about. Like the Players Association could even talk about, just like figuring out some type of contest where the all stars are going to try. Because at the end of
yeah,
the day, that's what we all want to see. We want to see the best versus the best competing at the highest
right.
level. All right. So for our final segment, we are going to go through our midseason awards, basically like end of season awards, but who we would give it to if the season ended today. Um, so let's start here. I'll go bottom to top on my list that I have written down. So coach of the year. Um, I
Yeah.
I I feel like this one's pretty cut and dry. Um,
Hmm.
as as it stands right now, the Cavs have been way better than I think anyone anticipated. And I think a big reason of that is them moving on from JB Bickerstaff and going with Kenny Atkinson.
Hmm.
It seems like just the change in coach has been huge for the development of this team. And it's allowed them to just be super dominant this year. I mean, they're constantly back and forth with the Thunder for who has the best record in the NBA. So
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, I think it has to go to Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah. And I had Kenny as well. I think the one that I think I had mentioned is Jamal Mosley of the Magic. I think that all the injuries they've dealt with, when Wagner went down, when Paulo went out, he kept them afloat. I mean, we'll get into that later, but like their tiers, we'll get into that in a different episode. But they're in a good spot for how young they are, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. But again, like you said, we did not expect the Cavs to start 15-0 or whatever they were. Um, and yeah, Kenny Atkinson is a big reason why. I mean, Bickerstaff is doing well in Detroit, so give him props. But yeah, moving on from him was clearly the right move, and Atkinson is in the front runner in that category. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there's any real competition there, at least this at this point in the season.
at this point,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sixth man of the year. So I put down Peyton Pritchard.
yeah. That's
Um,
who I had as well
yeah,
because
I think this cat or Celtics team, as constructed, like they've been different this year, which is weird because they're the exact same team as the team that won the championship
yeah,
last year. Um, but they've struggled at times. They've had like streaks where they lose 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5. Um, and they're already almost at their loss total from the full season
mm,
last year. Um, but the one bright spot Um, Besides obviously Tatum and Brown being Tatum and Brown, the bright spot for them, I think, has been Peyton Pritchard. Really
Mm-hmm.
coming into his own, playing big minutes off the bench, and shooting the ball insanely well. Um, from the little bit of Celtics basketball that I've seen this year, it seems like there will be times where he like the team is in a slump and he can maybe get something going, put the ball in the hoop a
Yeah.
couple times and kind of spark the offense. He's averaging career high in points. Um, I think really just been a revelation for a team that's kind of struggled to find their championship motor back,
Yeah. I
after
think.
winning the
Yeah.
title.
I don't know if it's part of like, okay, we know who we are, we can kind of cruise to the
Right.
playoffs,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think there's also that little bit of worry that's like you're not blowing teams out like you were last year. I think a big reason why they were so good last year is they didn't have a slump. That's where the Cavs. I mean, the Cavs are constructed very well, but a big reason why they started out so hot and are good is because they haven't really hit a slump, and maybe they don't hit a slump. Like the Celtics, I don't think they hit one much last year, and they have this year. And Celtics fans can, Tatum is a good player, but he's inconsistent. He is, and I don't think he's like a. I think we throw the word generational around too much, too loosely. Um, he's not that, and I think like as your leader, if you want to call him the leader, because even though he didn't win Finals MVP, he's obviously one of their two leaders. I think they have two with Jalen Brown. Um, I think that it just comes down to like they're a one dimensional team and they need to make sure that they hit their stride come playoff time because if not, they won't be repeating. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Peyton Pritchard. Going back to the main point, he's yeah, like you said. I haven't watched that much Celtics basketball, but he's their spark plug. Um, at times, I think there have been a couple games where they'll be up like one or two with like 2 minutes left, and he'll bury two or three threes and put a team away. Like he can do that, and off the bench, I don't think there's much competition right now in my opinion, but we'll see how the rest of the year pans out.
Yeah. Defensive player of the year. So I felt like this one was pretty obvious too. I put down Wemby.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I mean, obviously his offense has been coming along, and I think it'll still grow exponentially, as he continues
Mhm.
to develop as a player. But the one area where he's come in and just been an absolute force has been on the defensive end. He
Mhm.
is like prime paint defense Rudy Gobert on steroids. Like he is just everywhere inside the paint.
Mhm.
Anytime a team gets into the paint on the Spurs, if he's on the court, you have to be aware that he's going to try to block your shot. And a lot of the times he
Yeah.
will. Like he's just the length that he has and his ability to find the ball once it's in the air is just
Yeah. Like
unreal. Like
he blocked that one shot without jumping the other night. Like
yeah,
again, we know what this kid was when he was first scouted and we knew what he was going to be and whoever drafted him like had their guy and yeah, in my opinion this is his award to lose every year,
it
but
should be. Yeah.
again we'll see what happens. It's kind of like I don't know, like it's like with Jokic and Giannis, you kind of just expect them to be in the conversation. Wemby is like you expect him to win it every year at this point.
Yeah.
And um I get, he's what 7'5" or however tall he is, and yeah, I think that helps. It does, but like you said, the awareness just he's very smart in that area, and even the times where he gets beat, he can make up with that with his length. So, yeah, he was my front runner clearly, and I think it's his award to lose not only this year but in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Rookie of the year. I had Stefan
Uh,
Castle.
yeah,
Um,
I did too. Yeah, I would have had Jared McCain, but unfortunately he got
Same.
hurt.
Yep, same.
But yeah, Castle has been really good for them. I think having him aside alongside Fox is going to be really good, and not moving him. It was like one of those things where they didn't get desperate for Fox. I'm glad they did it, and they kept him around, and he's having a really strong rookie year for them.
Yeah, and now the thing too with getting Fox is that it takes some of the offensive pressure off of Stefan Castle
Yeah.
and allows him to be, as a rookie, just play more freely and
Mm-hmm.
really give all of his effort on the defensive end, which is where he shines. I think
Yep.
he's already shown that he is a very good perimeter defender, and has the
Mm-hmm.
potential to be an elite perimeter defender. Um, and when you talk about the potential of pairing him as an elite perimeter defender with Wemby,
Yeah.
who's an elite rim protector, if you have two guys in the court who are elite outside and inside, it's going to be tough for any team coming in
Mm-hmm.
to try to score on that. And again,
Mm.
I think Spurs are in a phenomenal position, and it's partially because of Stefan Castle this year.
Yep. MVP.
Hold on, hold on,
I think.
hold on. We forgot most improved, but like we forgot most improved.
Oh, so you want to do most improved?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a. It's
I have mine.
you what?
I know mine.
Who?
Norman Powell.
Um, let me just look. Uh, eh, eh. I don't
Are you
really know
still
who
looking
I
at
would.
yours or what?
I don't know who I would say. Let's just. Let's just skip it. Honestly.
Tyler Hero would be another good one. He had a good year.
Yeah, but like,
Man.
I don't know. I don't know. Because I also feel like you should go to a younger guy. You know, I guess I'd have to look more into it.
Yeah.
But okay. All right, ready? Three. We'll just go to MVP. Three,
Yep.
two, one. All right, so we're going to be skipping most improved. We both just kind of felt like um, halfway into the season, that's an award that's kind of weird. There really hasn't been any standouts in our like both of our opinions. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going straight to MVP. I wrote down my top three in order for how I would give it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my MVP winner so far this year is Shea. Um, I
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I feel like so far this season, 33, 5 and 6. Um, and he has like the Thunder have the best record in the NBA. I think
Mm-hmm.
putting up those numbers and being on the best team in the NBA, it's kind of hard to make a case against him. Obviously, you can say what you want, free throw merchant. I would tend to agree with that, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
points are points, no matter how you're getting them.
And it's a similar thing with like when Harden was in his
Right,
prime in Houston,
right.
like he was taking free throws, but it's a similar thing. And I think like last year with the Thunder, it was like we knew they were good. Like they had a good record. They were good. But everybody, I think consensus was like next year, next year. Like they need to go to the playoffs, have that experience, and then learn from it, and then they'll be good. And that's exactly I think what's going to happen. Um, Shea's leading the team, and again, they can say whatever about free throws, but he's leading that team, best record, and then
And they've done it for
for
most of the
those,
season
yeah,
without Chet.
without Chet, without Chet, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. They still,
And I get like Jokic is Jokic, but as someone who's seen their star player put up significantly better stats the year after and not win MVP because of voter fatigue, like Nuggets fans, this is what it's like. Like it freaking sucks when your guy consistently is. It's kind of expected. Unfortunately, like
hmm
Jokic is going to average a 30-point triple double. Like Giannis is going to average 30, 12, and 5. Like it's gonna happen, and I think it would be a crime if Jokic won 4 in a row. Because the fact that there's no voter fatigue for him, but there are for other people, I just don't think that's fair. So I think that's why Shea should win it and is in the driver's seat right now.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Because I mean, if voter fatigue is going to exist for Giannis, for Harden, for Westbrook,
LeBron,
for Steph, LeBron, um,
Kobe,
yeah, then it needs to exist for Jokic, um, Embiid too. Um,
Embiid, yeah,
because if you look at it statistically, Giannis is having the best year of his career. 32,
yeah. Last
like,
year was statistically his best too,
yeah,
but
and then
yeah,
he's having a better year this year. Like
yep,
he's just continued to improve every single year, and he only has one MVP. You know,
so he has to.
yeah, he only has two MVPs. Um, it's it's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same argument that people have said with LeBron forever. That if voter fatigue didn't
yeah,
exist, he would have won it like 8 years in a row.
yeah.
Um, and I think it shows so much um, how basketball's a team game and how
Mhm,
how your team does record wise is super important.
mhm,
Um, because yeah, like you can have, I mean, the Bucks have struggled at times this year, even though Giannis is having the best year of his career. Um,
right.
but I would still put him at third in MVP voting based on
Yep.
what we've seen in the last couple years.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's for me. It's Shea, Jokic, and
Yeah.
Giannis.
Yep.
But then there is a large drop off after that. I
Yeah.
think like you know
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
those,
even know who I would put forth if
right.
I'm
Like, those are the three best
gonna be
players
honest with
in
you.
the NBA right now, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
I don't
and then
really
there's a
think it's
big drop
close.
off after.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not my because yeah there are I don't think there are guys out there aside from those three that make as big of an impact. Like even like with like Jokic, you see when he was out for that little bit, that week or so, like they were not the same team. He's their facilitator. He is their the offense runs through him, and it's the same thing with Giannis. It's like when he's on the court, he draws so much more attention, and like Dame. It's weird, like Dame's numbers are so much higher when Giannis is off the court. That's just because Dame is so used to like, all right, there's nobody gonna help me, so I got to figure it out. Whereas like I think there's he still puts up good numbers with Giannis, but I just think that when Giannis is on the court, it's a whole different ball game because you have five guys focusing on him, and then you have usually 3 to 4 shooters around Giannis
Well,
at all
and
times.
yeah, and look at the last two seasons. Giannis, both the last two seasons for the Bucks, Giannis was banged up during the playoffs. Um,
Yeah,
Last year, like missed the series like altogether. Um,
yeah,
and so the Bucks have had great regular seasons, and then Giannis got hurt, and they get bounced in the first
yeah.
round. It's
And even the year they won, he got hurt.
right.
Like I thought his knee was cooked.
Yeah,
It's you watch that and that when your knee goes backwards, you shouldn't be playing in a week. But
yeah.
you know.
but he's a superhuman, and he's proven that
Yeah.
time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess we'll end on that note.
Yep.
Um, Thank you guys so much for sitting, listening to us talk. Do we have a schedule for when we're gonna do this?
Um,
Once a week?
I think it'll just be like a weekly thing.
Yeah,
Unless something were to come up, maybe we'll drop one
yeah,
during the week. But
yeah,
for the most part, I think it'll just be once a week,
yeah. And I know you.
probably about this length. And
Yeah, and you
um,
talked. You talked about doing your own videos too, your own content. I think, right?
yeah, yeah. If I can find some time during the week, I talked about just myself sitting down
Like,
and talking to you guys if
like
about
Kenny Beecham
possible
video
maybe
essay style, right?
Kenny Beecham. Yeah, if you guys know Kenny, I feel like most of you should. Um, but yeah, Kenny Beecham esque videos, kind of sitting down, going through my opinion on certain things. If something major were to happen, then that would be a video. But if not, we'll have just the two of us will sit down. I think at least once a week and just give our thoughts on stuff going on around the league.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys. Make sure leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. Subscribe to the podcast. Help us grow this channel. Follow us on all socials. You can follow us at Fundamentally Sound Pod on Instagram and on TikTok. Um, for Zach, I am Jared. This has been the Fundamentally Sound Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week.